Woohoo! Bet you want to know what's in the box.
What's in the box?
You probably already know because it's probably in the title of the video because I don't like surprises all that much. All right, anyway, let's get into the box. Let's show you what it is. First off, I do want to thank the sponsor of this video, WeBuyOldJeans.com. If you have old vintage jeans that you want to praise or want to sell, check the link in the description below. They're super helpful. I also want to thank the person who delivered this box to me. Well, yeah, the mail guys, but my buddy, Unique Archives on Instagram, found this piece. I was able to connect them to a buyer, and the buyer let me hold on to it to do a video, and that's what we're going to show you today. Let's get into it. What is in the box? Of course, you knew it. It's a pair of vintage Levi's. That's what we do here, is we look at vintage Levi's. This one is an exceptional piece. It's a 501 XX. And let's talk about how you can identify whether this is authentic, actual age, and if it's a reproduction. First off, we're going to take a look at some of the obvious ones. The most obvious stuff you're going to probably look at immediately every time you pick up a pair of Levi's. So you're going to check that tab. Is it a big E or is it a little e? This method is not as effective as it used to be because Levi's has started using the big E on modern jeans, which is super frustrating. But it does at least get you into the door of possible consideration that the jeans that you found or you have are vintage. So we've got the big E. Again, disclaimer, doesn't always mean that it's old, but that's a good sign. The other thing you're going to check is you're going to go check the back side or the inside of the seam to see if you have selvage denim. And in this case, we do. Levi's does make selvage denim jeans to this day. That is true. They're not as frequent. They're certainly more higher end. But if you have the big E and the selvage denim, you're making progress. We're getting closer. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually look at the back patch. And this is where I think things really start to take shape and come into focus. You can see this Jacron patch. You just feel it. Like, just put your finger across it. There's something different about this. They don't make them like they used to. You can actually even look, just some of the details. Some might think this would be indication that it's fake, but just look. These patches are like, they're not, it's like the printing is not even. It's not like centered. The 501 XX is like not like it's on that line. So this is actually a good sign that this is not like mass manufactured and laser, metric system factories. That these are probably something a little bit more authentic to the time. The other thing is this patch has changed formats over the years. This 501 XX is an indicator that these jeans are older than the mid to late 60s when they dropped the XX in favor of just going with 501, or for a brief period of time we had a couple different variations where there was like letters above the 501 to sort of, we think, potentially was a grading system, or sometimes there was 501 XX over top of the 501. Those were little formats in the transition period after the mid to late 60s. Also, the XX doesn't really mean anything. It's just sort of like a marketing thing that's just like extra strong, right? So this patch is starting to give us an indication that these jeans might be older than the mid to late 60s. So let's take a look at some other elements to see if we can narrow it down any further. The first one we're going to look at on the back side, just below the patch, is on the inside of the pocket. So if you look on the inside of the pocket, you flip that little top lip around and you'll see two rows of stitching. This is what we call single stitching. You're probably more familiar with the t-shirt single stitch elements, but in this case we're looking at single stitch in the back pocket of a pair of Levi's. This method to stitch the back pocket was used all the way up until 1978 or so, where it was replaced with a double stitch or a chain stitch on the back side of the inside of the pocket. This is a good indicator that this pair of jeans is older than 1978. I know we already narrowed it down, but that's important to know because you'll run into that with other jeans. Now, it's important to know that this method only works on red tab jeans. The orange tab had the double or chain stitching long before the red tabs did. In fact, the orange tabs had them from the beginning. So this method only works for red tab jeans like the 501, 505, etc. Now to dig a little bit deeper, we're going to go into the inside of the jean where there's some remarkable information and details that are helpful and important to us. The first one that you'll notice is the rivets. We have rivets here on the back side that line up to the back side of the pockets. These are called hidden rivets. This was a feature that Levi's had for many years. Basically, to keep people from damaging their upholstery or their car, they had these rivets covered with denim on the backside. So in this case, we have the hidden rivets. This method was used all the way up until about 1966. So we're looking at a pair of jeans older than 1966 because we have these rivets. Now, very old rivets, like 40s or so, these hidden rivets would have a number on them, and that would indicate that these are from like the 40s or so. These do not, so we're not looking at that age. Then we'll look a little bit around the horn here, and we'll see up by the button fly, we have a V-stitch. This V-stitch was used until the late 60s, like 68, 69, stuff like that is when they got rid of it. They no longer used it. There may be occasional ones. Remember, these are always transitions. They're not hard cutoffs. But this V-stitch is indicating that this is older than the late 60s. Also, you can look at the button here. You see a W. This is the factory code. The oldest factory codes are often letters, not numbers. In the late 60s, 70s, and 80s, these factory codes became digit, single, double, even triple, and now even quadruple digit factory codes. But if you see a letter instead of a number, it's a good indicator this is a pretty old pair of Levi's. It's also a good indicator these are not reproductions. And that's because when Levi's does reproductions, they don't actually generally use the old factory code system from that time period that they're reproducing from. They use a modern factory code like 555 for the Valencia factory, or like 4-digit for like made in Mexico or Turkey or something like that. So those are a good indicator that these are authentic, not in reproduction Levi's jeans. Should always also have a good look on the inside. Make sure there's no care tags or anything like that. Because those will also be a good indicator that they're reproductions. Generally, when Levi's does a reproduction, they're going to have a modern care tag along with it. There's no sign or evidence that there ever was one in these jeans, so we're good there. The other thing is on the back side, or sometimes the front side of this back pocket, you can see some printing that was from the factory. It's a good indicator that these are pretty old. Now, moving to the front side of the jeans, we can see another element that can help us narrow this down, and that is under the watch pocket, or on the inside of the watch pocket. Here we don't have any selvage. Levi's, up until about 1966 or 1965, had selvage watch pockets. This does not. So this is starting to get us an indicator of more approximately when these were produced. Because we do not have the selvage denim watch pockets. So after examining all of those elements, we can be confident that this pair of 501XXs are not reproductions. They are authentic, and they are from the mid-60s, like 65 or 66. And they are absolutely stunning and beautiful. So again, I want to thank Unique Archives for finding this. Congratulations, bro. And I do want to thank the buyer for letting me check them out for a little bit. And I do want to, again, remind you that WeBuyOldJeans.com can help you if you have a pair just like this. You need some information on, or you want to sell and you need some money. Check them out in the link in the description below. You will not be disappointed. They're great, and they will take care of you. Otherwise, guys, we thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.